Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. We are back. Continuing with our look at the triennial Torah portion. This week we are going to be looking at Genesis chapter 29, Bereshit 29, which is, and he went. And he went. We are going to be looking at this chapter dealing with Jacob going over and meeting up with his people over in the land of his fathers and his meeting of his beloved. All right, so let's go ahead and get right into it. Pull up the chapter here, Genesis chapter 29. We'll go ahead and just read, we'll read through it here. And we'll go ahead and get into our midrash after. Remember, go ahead and put your comments over in the comment section. You have any thoughts, questions, comments, go ahead and put them over in the chat. And we will definitely add that to our discussion. Okay, so let me go ahead and pull that up there. All right, go ahead and read nice and loud, starting with verse number 1.
And Yaakov moved on and came to the land of the people of the east. And he looked and saw a well in the field, and saw 3 flocks of sheep lying by it. For out of that well they watered the flocks. And a large stone was on the well's mouth. And all the flocks would be gathered there. Then they would roll the stone from the well's mouth and water the sheep, and put the stone back in its place on the well's mouth. So Jacob said to them, My brothers, where are you from? And they said, We are from Haran. And he said to them, Do you know Laban, son of Nahor? And they said, We know him. So he said to them, Is he well? And they said, Well. And see, his daughter Rahel is coming with the sheep. And he said, See, it is still high day, not the time for the livestock to be gathered together. Water the sheep and go and feed them. But they said, We are not allowed until all the flocks are gathered together. And they said, and they have rolled the stone from the well's mouth. Then we shall water the sheep. While he was still speaking with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess. And it came to be when Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, that Jacob went near and rolled the stone from the well's mouth and watered the flock of Laban, his mother's brother. And Jacob kissed Rachel, and she lifted up his voice and wept. And when Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's relative and that he was Rivka's son, she ran and told her father. And it came to be when Laban heard the report about Jacob, his sister's son, that he ran to meet him and embraced him and kissed him and brought him to his house. Then he told Laban all these matters. And Laban said to him, You are indeed my bone and my flesh. And he stayed with him for a new moon. Then Laban said to Jacob, Because you are my relative, should you therefore serve me for naught? Let me know what should your wages be. And Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. And Leah's eyes were weak, But Rahel was
Rachel. You said your name wrong.
Rachel was beautiful of form and beautiful of appearance. And Jacob loved Rachel, so he said, "Let me serve you 7 years for Rachel, your younger daughter." And Laban said, "It is better that I give her to you than that I should give her to another man. Stay with me." So Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed to him but a few days, because of the love he had for her. Wow. Then Jacob said to Laban, "Give me my wife, for my days are completed, and let me go in to her." And Laban gathered all the men of the place and made a feast. And it came to be in the evening that he took Leah, his daughter, and brought her to Jacob, and he went into her. And Laban gave his female servant Zilpah to his daughter, Leah as a... let me read that again. And Laban gave his female servant Zilpah to his daughter Leah as a female servant. And in the morning it came to be that, see, it was Leah. So he said to Laban, "What is this you have done to me? Was it not for Rachel that I served you? Why then have you deceived me?" And Laban said, "It is not done this way in our place, to give the younger before the firstborn. Complete the week of this one, then we give you this one too, for the service which you shall serve with me till another 7 years." And Jacob did so, and completed her week. Then he gave him his daughter Rachel too as wife. And Laban gave his female servant Bilhah to his daughter Rachel as a female servant. And he also went in to Rachel, and he also loved Rachel more than Leah. And he served with Laban still another 7 years. And Yahweh saw that Leah was unloved, and he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. And Leah conceived and bore a son, and she called his name Reuben. For she said, "For Yahweh has looked on my affliction, because now my husband is going to love me." And she conceived again and bore a son, and said, "Because Yahweh has heard that I am unloved, he gave me this son too." And so she called his name Shimon. And she conceived again and bore a son, and said, "Now this time my husband is joined to me, because I have borne him 3 sons." So his name was called Levi. And she conceived again and bore a son, and said, "Now I praise Yahweh." So she called him Yehuda, and she ceased bearing.
All right. Okay, very good. Let's see here. Let's go back up to the beginning. There's a few things that we want to deal with over here in this chapter. Hold on 1 second. Okay, so let us go back up here to the beginning. Lots to discuss over here. So we look over at the beginning where it says, and Yaakov moved on and came to the land of the people of the east. This is his peoples. This is where where his, foreparents are from. Forefathers, his mother and, in fact, his father. He's going back to these places. The place that he was going to is actually named after his ancestors over here. And so we see that he goes over and he goes over into the east. If we look down, let's see, when we look at verse number 4, it says, read 4 again for us.
4. So Jacob said to them, "My brothers, where are you from?" And they said, "We are from Haran."
My brothers, it says over here. Hold on one second. Let's see here. My brethren, in the Hebrew here, this is ach. Okay, brother, widely used sense of literal relationship and metaphorical affinity, resemblance, like, brother, kindred. So when we look at this with his use of these words over here, we see that he understood these people to in fact be his people, right? And that's why he says to them, my brother. He knew where he was. He knew where he was going to. Mm-hmm. He knew the people that were there, were his kindred. And he, in fact, is looking for specific people over here. This son of Nahor, right? Laban, his uncle, his mother's brother, right? His uncle. Interesting. We were just talking, for whatever reason, about the laws of the land. People at work the other day, discussing incest laws, and how many places. Well, not many places actually. Some places. One person had this preposterous statement. I say it's preposterous only because realizing that this land that we live in is so interesting. But he said that cousins wasn't able to be married, and so when you look, most places have that understanding, on the books, but then a lot of places actually don't, right? But when we look at these relationships here, they're closer actually than what Torah ends up allowing later, right? At this point, it's not the case, but if your cousins, how was that? First cousins? First cousins.
They are first cousins.
Jacob and Rachel and Leah are first cousins.
Yeah, their parents are siblings.
Their parents are siblings.
But there isn't any such thing as cousin in Hebrew.
A word.
There isn't a word for cousin, no.
Well, there's not a word, but we call that relationship. We call that relationship cousins.
Yeah, in English, everyone's a cousin at some point in time.
Right, but we're talking about degrees, though.
You either have parents or
Just degrees.
grandparents or aunts and uncles, and then everybody else is cousins. See?
Right, but we're talking about degrees of cousins.
Yes, degrees.
And so, I'm saying even in today's situation, this is too close. It's too close. And again, later, as I said, later in Torah, when the Torah comes down, when they go through Egypt and all that, and Ten Commandments and Mount Sinai, this becomes a prohibition, right? But we're talking about the foundations of the peoples, and so these things haven't come down; they haven't been codified as of yet. And so we see over here when Jacob goes over here, he looks, at these people, his brothers, as he says, and gets into this little conversation, talking about, y'all know Laban? Y'all know Laban? Yeah, we know him. It seemed like they was kind of short a little bit. Was they short a little bit? Is he well? They say, well. Is he well? Well, they didn't want to get into it, I guess. Oh, you don't got to ask me about it. Look, over there, his daughter coming. You can ask her. In verse 6. Right?
They did say what?
That's what they said. Is he well? Well. What did he really ask him here? What is that? Let me see here.
Genesis 29.
Is he? This word is shalom. Shalom.
Is he whole?
Interesting. I didn't even think about that before. He wanted to know about his well-being, his shalom, and his shalom was there, right? But
What verse is that?
verse 4, verse 6. Is he well? And they said, well. But I wanted to look at real quick verse 9. Because I thought it was interesting that this version here says,
It really does show he's well.
Rachel, read verse 9 there for us.
Verse 9.
Verse 9 says, while he was still speaking with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess.
A shepherdess. Actually, when you look at this here in the Hebrew, this translation here gives us this, title, I guess, name of a particular occupation. I don't know if it's an occupation. Convocation. No.
What occupation?
What's it called when you go to
What's occupation?
occupation? Is that a job where
Yeah.
you go to work and get paid for it?
Yeah.
I don't know if she gets paid for it though.
Hobby?
Other than that, it's a hobby.
Oh, it's not a hobby. I'm thinking of a word, but I don't know.
Vocation.
Vocation. I said convocation. Vocation.
But
It's a vocation more than it is an occupation. It's not a job. She's not going to work like for money. She's taking care of her father's sheep, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's more of a vocation, I would say. But I was just saying all that just to say this word here in this translation is I think it's we get the better understanding from the King James where it says that this is the daughter and she took care of the sheep of her father's sheep. She kept them. She came with the sheep and she kept them. There's not really this shepherdess word that they put there. It's just kind of a translation thing. However, it's telling us that I think because the idea is that that's what she's doing. She's doing this thing that there might not necessarily have been a word for it in terms of a woman shepherd, but that's what she was. She was a woman, a girl or whatever. I don't know her age at the time, if she was a woman or a girl. But she was tending, keeping the sheep of her father. So all of the things that a shepherd might do, that's what she was doing, right? This word over here, let's look at this word here, which sounds like the word that is to see, but it isn't that word, ra'ah. It's not to see. It's a different word, which is to tend a flock, to pasture it, to graze, right? To rule. And so when we think about the task that the job, the vocation that Rachel had over here, it don't talk about Leah here, by the way, does it?
No.
She's back. He sees her later, right?
She's out, like how his mom was out.
Rachel is.
Yes, she's out in the open.
Yeah, she just out. That's something about these people. I wish I had a last name so I could put that on how they just be out. These people, these people that I guess that's a thing that comes from
The mother.
the mother's gene,
Yes.
because we see
Esau was out.
Esau, right?
And Rebecca.
And Rebecca was out. She was out in them streets. I guess they didn't have streets. You got Rachel here. You got Dina later on, who just be out, right? Who come from the same line. They be out. They don't just be
Sitting at the house.
sitting at the house chilling, doing whatever it is that people do. But it's interesting when we look at these people that were able to see these different characteristics that they have that links them together, right? We find out that they're all family, but in the DNA, we're able to see these different things that they do. This is the same story that happened with Jacob's father, right? That was not out in those streets, right? Well, I guess it was the backwoods. Then it wasn't the streets; it was the backwoods. But she was definitely off the porch, as they say. But when we look at this, right, it's like they have these traits, these characteristics that they carry that we're able to see. As I was saying, when we think about Isaac and Rebekah, this is how, well, he wasn't there, but when you think about how she was met, she was out watering the flocks, right? And so we see this same thing over here. I don't know, maybe it's Laban. He has his daughters, they go out and he has them go, and his people, his sister, the family, it's the same family group. He got, well, again, I'm saying Laban, but when we go back and look, I think in my notes, we go back and look at Laban's connection with his sister. But it's almost as if Laban was leading the family even at that time, because he's incorporated in the giving of the sister, right? And so when we think about the traditions of this particular family, the women are contributing. They're contributing to the family situation. They're not just Laban. I don't know what he's doing. He's probably doing something else. But it's not like He just has the women just to learn about like cooking things and mending clothes and things and womanly, quote unquote womanly things, right?
Yeah.
They out doing the things,
Separate.
and they're doing things that don't even have. There's not even a name for the things that they're doing. Right? There's not even this the scriptures made up this separate shepherdess word, right? But the idea is that she is she's tending to these sheep over here. And so, I just thought that was an interesting kind of a thing that we see again, whether it be like a DNA thing where, they have you do the things, a lot of times you do the things that you like to do, right? And so potentially, we see her here, we see Rachel here and not Leah, because maybe she is better and likes it more, right? Maybe this is more her thing. She likes messing around with these animals and doing all the things that's included in. I don't know. I wish I knew. I always want to be a farmer, but I'm a city person, unfortunately. And so, again, we see out here Rachel. And so when we think about Jacob, in his doings, again, he comes across these people. They know of Laban. They speak of his well-being. They point him in the direction of his actual daughter, right? And then look at verse, read 10 and 11 for us there.
And it came to be, when Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, that Jacob went near and rolled the stone from the well's mouth, and watered the flock of Laban, his mother's brother. And Jacob kissed Rachel, and lifted up his voice and wept.
All right, so it's interesting because the picture that we really have of Jacob is that he's just inside homebody. He dwells in tents, right? You don't
food in the house, not outside.
Yeah, his meals are about these domesticated animals or beans or lentils, all right? Where his brother goes out and gets the wild game. But when he sees this Rachel, this Rachel, he goes up and these stones that covered these wells, right? They had to be significant because you didn't want for them to just accidentally get pushed or moved, by the weather or animals or whatever. It was a heavy lid, kind of how you think about like a manhole. It's the opening, but you don't want for it to just open just willy nilly, right? So when he sees this Rachel, and she's going to receive water, he just jumps into chivalry mode, and he goes over and he grabs the covering and he opens it for her, right? But it's just so funny because we don't think of him, at least I don't think of him like that. I feel like he needed somebody to help him move the thing over. I feel like it was some like divine intervention that helps him to push this thing over, because he's inside guy. He don't deal with these things, right? He's not one of those.
He's like a white collar, not blue collar.
No way.
Yeah, right. His job, he got the soft hands, right? He don't have like a hard hands job, right? But he goes in, he does this thing, and it says that he kisses Rachel, And I think that, you know, because we see also this situation in 13, where Laban, greets Jacob. It's like this is not like some kind of prohibited type of thing that he does, right? He's not like crossing boundaries when he goes and he kisses Rachel. It's not like he's, whatever kind of kissing that people do or whatever, right? But this is like, he's really excited. These people, how they greet people is
Greetings.
Kissing is like not necessarily mouth to mouth kissing all the time, right? And so this is, he's having this situation where he is overjoyed, probably mostly because, first of all, he's going over here for this purpose, right? To meet his mother's brother's children. I bet the whole time, he don't know what he's getting into, right? He had to have been thinking about this the whole time, like wonder, because it wasn't like go out there and find a wife, right? It was go over there and find a specific person and his people, right? And so it's like his choices were limited, right? It wasn't like he just had he had whoever to choose from, right? He had a small pool to choose from, and he's human, and he's probably like, I wonder what she's gonna be like, right? All this time, I wonder what she'll look like. I wonder how she'll be. And come to find out, she's probably a lot like his mother. All right? And she does the same things as his mother did. And so, he automatically, has this connection to Rachel, and he's overjoyed with the situation. So it's interesting when we see this again, when we look at this meeting, right? It's not like this, he's not like he's being inappropriate with her. Although I would say, I'm saying that I'm not trying to have no persons running up on my daughters and kissing them in any way, just out of nowhere. But I'm saying from a cultural standpoint, which is something that we have to think about. This is what these are the kinds of things that they did. But I just wanted to notice that, again, the same thing that we see in verse 11 happening is the same thing that happens with Laban and Yaakov in verse 13. And so, whatever this is in 13, this is the same thing over here in 12, right? And it's like you almost see the same, a similar, I'm not going to say the same, you see a similar reaction. Yaakov is happy. He lifts his voice. Woohoo! I don't know what he does. He lifts his voice in some way and cries. Like he weeps. He weeps for joy, right? And Laban, he's like, you are indeed my blood and my flesh. Flesh of my flesh and bone of my bone, right? And so this is what he goes over their force. So when we think about Yaakov and his journey, the journey that he's on, again, he is in exile, right? He's fleeing from his brother, right? He basically has nothing but himself, right? As he goes, he meets with the Almighty, who strengthens his resolve as he goes, right? And the next thing we know is him actually meeting up with the people. Like, he don't even have, as far as we know, in terms of the narrative that we see here, you know, he's not even out here looking, right? He gets to the place where he's going. He finds a well, which is always a good place to meet up with people at the well. And he immediately finds the ones that he is actually looking for, right? And so when we see over here, I want to talk about a little bit when we go down here, because now he sees, he meets the father. You know, he understands the situation, right? He stays for some time there, a month, it says, and Laban, when we look at Laban, it's interesting because just like with Rachel, we see with Laban, we're able to see the DNA, right? Just like we're able to see the characteristics that are similar with Rachel, with Rebecca. We're also able to look at Laban and the things that he does, where, you know, there's some interesting things that we see over here. But I want to talk about, let's look at verse, let's see here. Well, let's talk about 15. I think that, I don't want to think ill about Laban, but for whatever reason, I can't help but to do it, right? And so when we look at 15, I feel like, I don't know, this is probably wrong. I feel like when we look at Laban and he does this thing, you know, you my people, right? We relatives. I ain't gonna have you out here working for free. Name your price. I'll give it to you. Let me know what your wages are. Right? That's what he says. But when I read that, I just feel like he got some ulterior motives over here. I feel like.
He wants free help. You mean? Is that what you mean?
I mean that when you look at this, it seems like it's a nice thing that he would do. Right? I feel like when you at the surface, it will be nice. So I'm not, you know, if you're gonna be doing this work, I want to pay you. I feel like that's what somebody probably should do. That's what he does. It's a nice gesture. It's, you know, it's compassionate. He's thinking about the well-being of this person who's obviously his relative. What I'm saying is that when I look at him doing this nice thing, I feel like there's ulterior motives beneath it. Like he's not just only doing this nice thing just for the sake of being nice.
Well, I think the proof is in the pudding. Right?
I think the proof is in the pudding.
He's not.
Because he's not.
He's not nice. He's not being upright about it. Because he says, "Tell me what your wages are." He agrees to the wages, but he don't actually pay the wages.
Well, Okay, so you connecting it autumn. You taking it all the way to the whole wages.
I'm taking
being,
it to that, and I'm taking it to whenever Jacob's main complaint to him later is that he changed his wages 7 times.
Okay, so
And then he.
So to me,
So Laban talking to him about wages, and you know that he's not upright about wages.
To me, I think there's. I feel like there's 2 things that go on. I'm not sure if I'm just reading down. I'm not sure that he's about to make an offer for his daughter yet, right? I'm just reading down. I'm just thinking about the fact that he's been there for a month of time. There's work to be done. Yaakov's probably helping out, and Laban's saying, "You don't gotta just work for free. I'll give you money for it." And so I'm thinking about just the wages part of it, because if we think about him like what you're taking it to the future, and talking about changing wages 7 times, the main agreement that he switches up on, which I guess could be wages, but I think also there's actual wages that is being spoken of. So I'm saying that I'm thinking that there's 2 situations where Laban is offering Jacob just payment for his work, and then now beyond that, we have the introduction of these 2 daughters.
Well, 1 daughter.
Well, one that Jacob is that Jacob is interested in, but 2 that's there. And we're introduced to them here in verse 16. The fact that it says Laban had 2 daughters, Leah and Rachel. And so, interesting thing that I found when I was looking at these, different things talking about these 2 daughters, Leah and Rachel. We're told in verse 17 that Leah, her eyes were weak, but Rachel was beautiful of form and beautiful of appearance. And so when we look at Leah, it gives this description of who she is, and it only speaks about her eyes. Are we to think that it's literally speaking about like her actual eyeballs, like she wasn't able to see very good? Or is it kind of a euphemism for something? Some various translations, when you look at even the King James says tender. She was tender-eyed, right? And so when you look at this, it's interesting. It's an interesting word here. Weak, tender, gentle, indecisive, right?
Indecisive.
She's just shy.
Shy.
Maybe it just has to do. Maybe it had nothing to do with her actual eyes, right? We don't get like a full description, right? But when it talks about Rachel, she was beautiful in form, and she was beautiful in appearance. So it's almost as if, from a whole standpoint, Rachel, she just was beautiful all around. And Leah, she just had tender eyes. Like, I don't know if this is a quality or if it's like a detriment. Right? Is it saying something good about her, or is it saying something bad about her? Right? when you look over here again, when we think about what it says in terms of Rachel, she was beautiful. She was Yafa in figure, appearance, countenance, visage, resemblance. And so, that's one aspect, and well favored here. In view, appearance, shape, looks, mental, appearance. I feel like the author here is trying to help for us to understand that everything about Rachel was just amazing. This is the way that is given it to us here. And Leah, she had tender eyes. So again, if we think about it as these tender eyes, maybe that's just the one good quality that she has. Or she's like an old person when their eyes, start to get weary, and she's not able to see very well. She has weak eyes, right? When you look at the some of the rabbis, when they talk about her being tender-eyed, they say they say that this is used in a idiomatic sense, and not necessarily that she was weak-eyed because she was older, but she was tender-eyed. It was just telling you that her physical quality was her eyes. Like the thing that was most pleasurable about Leah was her eyes. Right? Her eyes were beautiful. They were tender. Right? Her eyes. But Rachel, everything about Rachel was beautiful, right? And she was beautiful in form, and she was beautiful in appearance. And so when we think about Yaakov, when he essentially has a choice here between the one who she only just has pretty eyes, or this other one who's just pretty everything. It says in 18 that he loved Rachel. And so he says, let me serve you 7 years for Rachel, your younger daughter. And so I want to talk about this 18 over here, because it's interesting when we look in Scripture. There's not many times at this point in Scripture when we look at this word here, loved. Love is not used many times in Scriptures up to this point. In fact, I think this might be maybe the 3rd time in the Bible that this word here, ahav, is used, right? To have affection for, to love, and what have you. When we think about what it is that the Most High does for us in terms of love, it's this word, ahav. When we think about in the so-called Old Testament as a whole, when we think about this word, love, we have one word. It is ahav, to love, right? And so we begin to understand what love is. This word ahav, by dealing with the examples that were given in the Scriptures, right? Because the thing that he loves, which in this case is Rachel, the thing that he decided to place his affections on, he will do anything for. There's no thing that he won't do for this one that he has placed his affections on. Right? It's a choice. There's a choice that he made. Jacob. There's a choice that Yaakov made. He said, I love this one. He loved her. Jacob loved Rachel, so he said, let me serve you 7 years for Rachel, your younger daughter. The connection between this thing that he decided in his mind, this love that he wanted to affix on Rachel, he is going to do whatever. Right? And so this is one of the first kind of examples that we see of love and what it is. Right? So when we think about this word here, this ahav, this love, this thing that Jacob did towards Rachel, you know, that word, you know, is something that we see throughout the scriptures where the Most High speaks about, especially in regards to the teachings of Messiah, right? It's necessary for us to love Elohim, Yah, with all of our heart, mind, soul, and love our neighbor as ourselves. And so when we think about this idea of this love that we are supposed to have one for another and towards the Most High, you know, how are we able to do a thing that we don't have an understanding fully of what that is? I think it's helpful the way that it's phrased in terms of thinking about loving your neighbor as yourself. Right? Because if maybe I don't know what it means to love my neighbor, but if I'm loving him as if I think about the way that I want for myself to be treated, that's how I should treat others. Right? A person in their right mind has a high regard for their self. They don't want to bring harm upon themselves. Right? I'm saying again, a person in their right mind. They don't want to bring harm upon themselves. Right? They want to gain things. Right? They want to do nice things for themselves. Right? You want to have all of these good things happen to you. You're not going to purposefully do bad things to yourself. Right? And so when you think about all of these things, again, it helps you to understand, you know, when Messiah says something like, if you love me, keep my commandments. Right? He might as well have said, if you love me, act like it. Right? I can't be slapping you and saying, I love you so much. You're the most important thing to me, as I'm slapping you across your lips. Right? With the back of your hand, right? With the knuckle part. Right? I can't be loving you and doing harmful things to you simultaneously. Right? And so there's a connection between this thing, ahav, this affection that we have for ourselves for others, this affection that the Most High has for us, his people, there's a connection between that and the way that he treats us. Right? If he wants only for good things to happen to us, that's only a result of his love that he has for us. Right? And so again, when we think about this thing that we see over here in terms of what Yaakov has for Rachel, this love, we immediately see the connection between what he said, or the facts of the matter, that he loves Rachel, and he said, I will serve 7 years for Rachel, your daughter. And so we learn some things from this, him even doing this. First of all, when we think about these people and the customs that they had, you wasn't just rolling up on somebody talking about, I'd like to marry your daughter. Right? You had to have something on it, whether it be jewels or actual money, whatever was used for
Trade.
for money or any type of valuable thing. Mm-hmm. If we go back and we look at, let's see here. If we go back to Genesis 24. Read Genesis 24, 53. Just read 52 and 53.
And it came to be, when Abraham's servant heard their words, that he bowed himself towards the earth before Yahweh. And the servant brought out ornaments of silver and ornaments of gold and garments, and gave them to Rivkah. He also gave costly gifts to her brother and to her mother.
Okay, very good. So this is interesting because according to the traditions, right, you had a bride price, which was one thing, and you had a dowry, which was another. When you look at verse 23, you kind of see both things, right? He has something that's for the bride, and he has something that's for the family, right? And these things are separate. Sometimes they might be combined, but we're able to see in the practices of these people around these areas where you had these practices where you had this mohar. It's interesting because when you look at the Arabic, they have something that sounds similar, right? Because the languages are similar, but it's the same thing, right? So you have this mohar, this bride price, and you have this dowry. And so when you look at this, when you think about that, it's interesting when you think about this whole thing, because this was a functional thing. It was a transactional thing at the same time, but it wasn't like the same thing as like like buying a slave person, right? You were kind of buying the bride from the family. You were kind of doing that, But another thing that you were doing was having, it was almost like insurance. It was exactly like how we would think about and as I was thinking about this, I'm saying that, when that time comes around for me, I'm saying that I need for these people to put together, I'm about to figure out what it costs to live for a certain amount of years. And I'm going to say that, I don't think I said this to my wife before. And I'm going to say that I need for this person to have an insurance policy. We're putting this in the ketubah. You need to have an insurance policy of X amount of dollars and have that thing paid on. And in the event of death or divorce, then my baby ain't got to do anything for the rest of her life. Because that's the equivalent of what this thing is that's given to the bride. She takes that thing and she has that, to the side. And so in the event of something something happens to her husband, she's not in destitute. She has this thing. It's not like she don't use the thing. She just has it over there. And if something happens, she has this dowry to fall back on, right? We need to figure out, what. You don't gotta give me nothing. You don't gotta give me nothing. But what you do gotta do is you need to get an insurance policy and be paying on it. And that thing be active as part of the contract. We had to get this thing written up, specifically. But that's what this dowry thing is, right? And then again, the bride price again is it's kind of a payment. It's kind of a transaction, like of buying. But when you think about what this relationship is between a husband and a wife, it's interesting. Even in our funny English language, a husband is the band around the house. It's a house band. Did you know that?
I don't know.
Did you know that a husband is a house band?
No, I didn't know that.
He's the band that goes around the house. even in this funny language that we
That's
have.
why my liberal homeschool people, they don't call their husbands, and they're married, and
They don't?
no, they say they're their partner.
They don't like that word.
They don't like the word husband
Why don't they like it?
because husband puts like an order to things.
Oh, which it does.
And so they don't use that.
Because it really is. There's a connection between in the etymology of this word husband is house band.
And so they don't, because I was like,
These people.
they have
crazy.
like they're a family, you know what I mean? Like it's legitimate, you know what I mean? But they won't use that word,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure if their husbands call them their wife. Or if they call
Is there
them their
a negative
partner.
connotation with that word as well?
I don't know because I should have asked.
Well,
I'll ask.
when you think
Next
about it
time
in
I
the
see those
Hebrew,
people,
at
I'll
least,
ask them.
you have ish
Which comes from
and you have isha, and so there's the woman is connected to the man,
yes.
right? Her existence
Comes
as isha
from the
is connected to the ish, right? And so when you think about the man,
I used to hear
right? the husband, if we looked at that word here, let's look at this word here. Because this is what it is that Jacob wants to be. And this is the price that he's ending up getting ready to pay to actually be it. Right? He's saying, I'm going to pay 7 years. I'm going to give 7 years of my life.
He should have came up with a lower price than that.
Well, he didn't have anything. What was he going to give? I feel like he gives, when you think about...
Why did he get sent out with nothing?
He just was starting his life.
Rivka should have known.
He was starting his life. He was getting his life together. He started from the bottom.
Rivka should have known.
When you left out
brother.
from the house, what'd you leave with?
Nothing.
Whatever you took with you. Nobody can give you nothing.
I guess
He just had to make it from them. He had to start from the bottom.
Well,
He said, I don't got nothing to give. I just see this beautiful woman that you got, and I'll give you anything for her. Matter of fact, I'll give you 7 years of my life. I'll work for free for 7 years. That's what he's saying. But he's doing that. He's doing that so that he could be her man, her ish, her husband. Hold on, let's look at this real quick. Let's go over this. Let's see. If we look here, let's see. 7 years, he said. 7 years, because he wanted it to be a complete. It's a complete relationship, right? This 7 year cycle. I want to go through a complete cycle of years for the hand of your beautifully formed and beautifully appeared daughter. Not the one with just the pretty eyes, but the one that got pretty everything. I want that one. But let's look over here. I want to look at this real quick here. So we look. Um, 3, 7, 5. Hold on. 3, 7, 6. My fault. Okay, so when we think about ish, husband in the scriptures is going to give you either this, ish, which is a man, individual, male, or husband. Right? And so the husband, he's many things, right? He's what is this? This is word study.
Fall or spring or summer seer.
He is some of the things that he is. He's husband. He's champion. Right? He's steward. He's all of these things, right? This is what the husband is, right? And so when we look in the scriptures, a lot of times we see this word here, ish. We also see this word over here for husband. Is 1167 is Baal. He is, because we have to think about, even though again there's a difference between a wife and a slave, like a person that you buy as a slave is one thing, and even though we have the transaction part, which is an actual part, I think that there's a kind of understanding that has to be had when we think about it, because it's definitely not the same thing. Like a wife is not a type of slave, right? There's a distinction. There's a connection because from a traditional standpoint, the wife was actually bought, but it wasn't even compared to you like buying a servant, right? That's not what you were doing. Even though when you look at this word for husband, he is master, right? Husband, he is owner, right? Captain, chief. He's all of these things. right? And so he's possessor, right, of his wife. But it helps for us to be able to understand the relationship, right? It helps for us to be able to understand the relationship. So Jacob, how's he going to possess a whole person with nothing? He don't have anything.
No house.
He don't got nothing. He don't got a pillow to sleep on. He got rocks as his pillow. Right? He don't got he ain't got nothing. And so how he gonna possess a whole human being? He can't. He got nothing to offer. Right? And so he says, I'll give you a whole cycle of life, a whole 7 years for your daughter. Right? And so we see over here again, if we go back, here, let's go back to 29. And this is what they do, right? Let me serve. And then we see here, read 19 again for us here.
And Laban said, "It is better that I give her to you than that I should give her to another man. Stay with me."
Okay, we're very good. So Laban, this is his way of agreeing to the terms, right? All right, cool. And so we see Jacob, he serves his 7 years, and to him, yes, absolutely, yes, right, yes, exactly. Right. This was it's a complete cycle. Right? The word for oath is similar to the word for number 7. Those two words are connected. So he's saying, she's now worth a week. Right? She's worth years. So let me give you complete cycle of years. 7 years. And to him, because of this love that he had, because of the decision that he made inside of himself to say, I'm going to do whatever it takes for you, Rachel, that time came and went, and to him it was nothing. Like, I'm sitting there thinking, like as an electrician, my apprenticeship, that was the longest 5 years that I could remember. Like, getting into it, I was like, wow, this is going to be 5 years of this. Before I start getting the journeyman wages, I got to start all the way at the bottom. My $8.88 I was making per hour as a grown man with kids. I got to start all the way at the bottom. They treat you bad too as an apprentice. You got to do the worst jobs as an apprentice. And for 5 years. And so he's sitting up here swearing himself to 7 years. Now, when it was over, I can say, wow, this 5 years felt like nothing. But going into it, I wasn't thinking like that. Going into it, I was like, man, I don't even know how I'm going to make it. But Jacob, because of the love that he had, the decision that he made, he says, I'll do it. And so when the time is over, he said, give me mines. My time is completed. Go ahead and let's seal the deal. And so now we see the deception of Laban and that DNA that he has inside of him. That's just like Jacob.
Mm-hmm.
When do we see, Esau? When do we see Esau being a trickster?
You don't see it.
That's not part of his deal. Like, he's something else.
Mm-hmm.
He got other parts. But we see Jacob, we see Rebecca, we see Laban, right? We see these things that are connected with deception.
Even Raquel with the idol.
Even Raquel with later, but the argument can be made. Even Raquel with this situation, because this is interesting when you look at this. Because when we look at this, so if we say, I want to just say that the whole time that Jacob is this whole 7 years, I'm saying that Rachel knows that he's working 7 years for her.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Bible don't say it, but I think that Rachel knew that this whole 7 years Jacob was working for her.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's safe for me to say that. And I think it's also safe to say that she knew when the 7 years was going to be up. like Teresa, when we were betrothed to one another, to one another, we knew when we was going to get
We're
married.
supposed to get married in November.
There was a date that was set.
We didn't.
That we knew from the time that we set the date to that day, we knew that there was the time that was gonna go by, and we knew when it was gonna be up, and we knew what was gonna happen, right? And so we went into the situation with anticipation, waiting on a particular end to something that we started. So I'm saying it is safe to say that Rachel knew what the end was going to be. Like, she wasn't in the dark. And so when we get to verse 29, chapter 29 and verse go back up here, 22, it says, so Laban, he's putting this whole thing together. We see that he orchestrates something here. He gathered all the men of the place and he made a feast. And the inspiration tells us here, and it came to be in the evening. It was getting to be dark time, nighttime.
I'm sure there was wine at this feast.
They probably did have wine, but so it's interesting. But when you think about it, like, there's usually you have the marriage and the feast. That is something that comes after, like. But this thing is beginning at night, and it says that, and so it's interesting. Even in the telling of it, you can see Laban's part in it. It says, then he took Leah, his daughter, and brought her to Yaakov. Where was Rachel when this part was happening? Well, she was probably like, hold on, you dressing her up, but I'm the one that's supposed to be getting dressed up. Why she didn't barge in and say, hold up, like, Hold
Stop
on.
it.
Let me see. You can't see.
Probably part of it.
Wait a second. I'm the one. Like, where was she at?
She's probably in on it.
I don't understand how she wasn't. I don't understand how she wasn't.
They would have to have her locked up
Yeah, that's-
somewhere
you know
far
that.
away where she can't be screaming about.
Yeah.
No, since you-
Ah! I'm the one. Like,
I'm getting married.
like, why she didn't? Why wasn't she there? And so
The
now
whole family like that.
they all like that. People crazy. People crazy. And so this whole situation is why some of the rabbis talk about Leah and Rachel being twins.
That's very interesting.
That's very interesting.
Because when you look at this,
How would
they
we
make
know?
it all the way to the next day. They make it all the way to the next day. In the morning, it came to be that seed. It was Leah.
That's why I mentioned the wine.
I
Possibly
mean,
it was lit.
It could have been that. It could have been part of the celebration, but it had to be a lot of celebrating
Right.
to
right,
get two people mixed
Right.
up.
Right.
Like you gotta have a lot of wine to get to that point.
Right.
You gotta be kind of dark too.
And so,
That could have been twins.
And
that's-
so
that
they-
was the
and so they
difference
talk
between them.
about-
one was
The
beautiful
eyes.
and foreign,
one
the
was
other
beautiful in every way, and the other
how
one
you
just
tell
had
the
pretty
difference?
eyes.
And you can tell the difference to the eyes.
That was in, and that was in.
I think about the twins, the little kids, the I don't want to say their names on the camera,
I know, who
but
mean.
you know what I'm talking about. I don't know the difference between them, but the kids know the difference
Yeah.
between them, and I just be like, they twins. I don't know which one is which. I don't know, but the kids know the difference.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
got different features.
And so there was an obvious difference between the two. One was older, one was younger, and so they go into this whole thing again. They come up with these some of these things that they come up with, these stories that they tell, and so they you can take or leave the things that they say, but they talk about the fact that Leah, being the oldest, but then also, not having the same qualities as her sister. And so her whole life, she has this kind of a thing, this complex that's created, that she's the oldest one. She should go first, but she's probably not going to go first because the other one is the most beautifulest one. And so they have this reason why both sisters, sisters of course having compassion for one another. He loved me so much. You just go ahead and pretend like you me, and then we'll just stack on another 7 years, and then I'll just.
Yeah, I mean, because it don't speak about Rachel's love for Jacob. Jacob had eyes for her. It doesn't say she had eyes for him.
It don't say it.
So
yeah.
she could have. That sounds like a scenario. And twins could possibly run in their family.
Yeah, because he's a twin.
Right.
Jacob is a twin.
Right.
It's usually a thing. What do we have here? As Laban said, it was better to give his daughter to Jacob than to another. The rabbis also say that Leah's eyes were sad from crying about, the potential being betrothed to Esau. Yes, that's exactly one of the things that they talk about. And so this is almost like saving her. Like it's kind of the thought that they interject. But all that stuff is just it's you could take it or leave it. But when you look at the scripture and when you think about reality, you think about the fact that somebody more than Laban had to know about what was going on here. For it to make it all the way, they talk about Rachel telling Leah how to behave and talk, so that Jacob could not know that it's her. because again, because in the scripts, it makes it all the way. They start partying in the nighttime, and it's all the way until the morning that he finds out. It goes all the way to the morning, right? And so I'm just saying that when we look at these people, you know, who at the end of the day are in fact people where, you know, they, you know, we do things that's not always on the up and up
To this day.
to this day, right? And so it's interesting when you look at this because there was some serious deception involved to even put together a plot like this, to have someone marry another person, like a whole different person than what was
That'd be crazy.
initially like you go to the thing and it's like, hold on, this ain't the one that I work for all this time. And okay, so I just thought that was a interesting kind of thought about it. And so, you know, when you look here, let's go back over here. And so that, you know, that's a done deal. So he's married to Leah now. He's married to her, you know, and he finds out that, you know, he got Leah and not Rachel. And then, you know, Laban's like, you know, this is how we do it. This is what we do. You know, we usually just give away the first one first. That's all we do. I mean, what would you say? Like in this day and age, you probably would like go to court or something. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to court. I said we made an agreement. That, you know, that's another thing. The way he seals the agreement, I think, is shady. Now that I think about it, he said, "Let me serve you 7 years for Rachel, your younger daughter." Why couldn't he just be like, agreed? Okay, good. He says, it's better that I give her to you than I should give her to another man. Stay with me. That's talking about him working for him, but not necessarily talking about Rachel. Like, why couldn't he just be like, yes? Like, I like for people to say yes or no. Like, is this exactly what we agreeing to?
Yeah.
Is these the terms? He said, let me serve you 7 years for Rachel, your younger daughter. And he's just making a general statement. Well, it'd be better for me to give her to you than to another man. Stay with me. But what's that got to do with the agreement? I don't think he made the agreement. I think he caused for Jacob to believe that he was in agreement with the agreement, but that's not the agreement necessarily. He tricked him. To Jacob, in his mind, staying with me is saying yes to the agreement. But Laban's like, I can't. I got to get Leah away first. The whole time, probably.
Yep.
All right, let's go down here or something.
You see the comment?
Where?
I don't know. I was kind of
Yeah.
away. Okay,
I
alright.
put that up, yeah.
I was just making sure.
And so Jacob then, as a result of this and his love for Rachel, he says, "All right, then, you got me,
You, what?
but
You got me.
you got me,
You got me once.
but I'm just gonna work another 7 years."
That's the only thing he could do, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
What else is he supposed to do? He still don't have any money. Did you want a coffee?
Yeah, yeah, and so so that's what happens, and so it works another 7 years, and then he finally gets what he came for.
But he didn't have to wait for her to that.
Hmm?
He was able to marry her while he was working.
Is that what it say?
Don't say that? He said let her have her week and then.
Was that a week or is that 7 years?
What did it say?
27. Complete the week
Complete
of this one. Then we give you this one too for the service which you shall serve with me still another year. I see what you're saying.
What was the week? Was it the week of pleasure? Was it
Well, typically a marriage really was like a week long ceremony. So we have a wedding and it's like lasts a couple hours.
Yeah.
But they had like a week long ceremony. So you could look at this and say, you finish this ceremony out with this one. Then we give you this one too, Rachel, for the service which you have to serve with me. So it's almost like you got 2 for 1. You could think about it like that. No, you can't because 28. No, you could think about it until you read 28. It says, and Yaakov did so and completed her week. And then he gave him his daughter Rachel too as his wife. Yeah.
He said, I need this up front. I'm not working another 7 years.
And so it looks like he did a year and 7 days to have her as his wife.
Yes.
But he still owed.
He was payment plan.
He still owed the rest of the 7 years.
He got on a payment plan. 14-year payment plan with Laban.
Yeah.
He thought he was going to do a 7-year payment plan, but Laban made it 14.
He's a businessman.
I think I never thought about it like that. I always thought about it in terms of him finishing out the whole 14 years. What's this say?
A week of years.
Oh, complete the week. Oh, this says
Up on that.
week of years.
Go over that way.
Does it? Fulfill her week. Shavua.
He didn't make him. He didn't make him serve him a whole another 7 years.
Yeah, I don't know. It's possible.
Because then she starts having babies, and then Rachel starts feeling a certain kind of way.
Yeah, which is the next part. And so I wanted to talk about this part here. In verse 31, where it says that Yahweh saw that Leah was unloved. He opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. And so, here, let's look at this here. Because the King James actually says hated. Sonne, to hate. Enemy, foe. Odious.
You guys stop.
Odious.
Stop it.
Odious is an
Whoa,
interesting
whoa,
is an interesting word because when you think about odious, something is odious is just like it's just like a stench. It's odious. Right? And so I think that
Make sure baby don't
but I think that when we look at this word in terms of the fact that it says that he hated one and loved the other, in this case, I think it's closer to kind of an idiomatic use of the word hate, as opposed to him literally hating her, right? Because when you think about, I think the quote unquote hate is kind of one relative to the other. He definitely was partial. He was partial to one over the other. And so I think that when we think about the relationship here between Jacob and Leah, I think that the word hatred there, sane, the fact that it says that she was unloved. I think that the point that is given there is the two related to each other. Because when you think about it, if I hate you, like if I literally hate you, I don't want nothing to do with you then, right? If I hate you, I don't want nothing to do with you if I hate you. But comparatively speaking, which I think that's what the point that this is trying to convey is one related to the other, because, you know, when we look at the very next thing that it talks about, you know, Leah, she conceived and bore a son. And so there was things that was going on in the midst of the supposed hatred. I think that there was definitely a partiality. There definitely was a partiality here, but I don't think that it was like hatred. Like
he wanted the
what
one,
we
and then he didn't get that.
hold on, let's see what these comments are here. Finish the marriage week of the one, and we'll give you the other one. Also in exchange for the work you will do for me during yet another 7 years. Oh, the complete Jewish Bible.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It kind of moves toward that idea of him actually working a year and a week for Rachel, and then owing the rest,
Yeah.
but getting her.
It was a payment plan.
Yeah. He got her on layaway. Well,
No, if it's
Rent a center.
layaway, you don't
Rent a
get
center.
to keep it. It's like Apple.
he got her on
Credit.
on credit, yeah.
But if you look at it, though, there's a direct parallel between Jacob and Esau.
Loving and hating, yeah.
Because Esau said the same thing. He said, and Esau hated Jacob
Yeah.
because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him.
Yes.
So it's like after the deception, there's going to be some hate.
Yeah.
And so even though he might not hate Leah, but there's going to be a little, you know.
Resentment.
There's something, yeah. There's definitely something there. Go ahead.
I mean, and like even the parallel, I would love if Leah and Raquel were twins. That would be the best, because then that would mean that, just like how Jacob and Esau was able to deceive Isaac, then Leah and Rachel was able to deceive Jacob.
Yeah.
And then the whole thing of it being at night is equivalent to the blindness of Isaac.
Yeah.
He couldn't see. That's the only reason he didn't know the difference. And that, you know.
They
So
come up with these. They
Laban
come
did
up
make
with these
sure.
strange tales,
But they make
but there's something behind it. Like it's a plausible situation where, you know, there's slight variations in the way that they
that would
look,
be so cool. They was,
but maybe they sound the same. But you know, aesthetically, Rachel's more pleasing than Leah, except for her eyes. You know, she has these tender. She's so tender eyed, right?
Africa said, "What if that was Jacob's judgment because of what he did?"
I
Jacob
don't.
gets back. What he deserves.
I think that when you think about something that Yeshua talks about, which is just a universal thing, you reap what you sow. Right? If you live by the sword, you die by the sword. Right? If you the thing that moves you forward is deception, then along the way you're gonna meet up with some deception. And so he got what he was supposed to get through deception. And so the Most High say, have some deception yourself.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
your own medicine. Here you go.
I mean, it's like there's a deception involved, but blessings come on the back end of it. So it's kind of a mixture. It's a bitter sweet. It's a bittersweet situation.
Yeah.
Where he's creating a nation, right? It's coming from a situation, but there's hiccups, right? There's bumps in the road. There's things that you have to deal with as a result of the way that you are.
It seems like whenever man is involved, there's always some hiccups.
There's always hiccups,
Yeah.
but we have to.
It's like the first
We can't forget about the fact that if you put a seed in the ground and you put dirt on top and you put water on top of that thing that you put in there is gonna grow.
Yep.
That thing's gonna grow, not some other thing, unless it's GMO.
And that's it.
But if you put the seed of the thing in the dirt, the thing that you put in there, that thing's coming out.
Yeah, and that's very evident in today, where you have all of these people doing all of these bad things, but they're expecting good fruit to come out of
Silliness. Don't make any
all
sense.
of this evil and wickedness that they're doing. They think that, oh, well, I'm just trying to get out of the hood, or I'm trying to do this or do that so I can, help my family. I had one guy tell me one day, yeah, I'm just doing this just so I could feed my kids. And I said, well, you ain't going to be able to feed your kids when you're dead or in prison.
Right. Yeah. And so we have to think about, we definitely have to think about that when we look at, the situation. Because, in one respect we see, and his family's beginning to grow. He has Leah, who he hates, and she's having all of these babies. Right? Where with the one that he loves, he got none. And and so he's planting seeds, but he's not getting none in return. Right? That's how we could say that she's barren, because they're trying, but nothing's happening. But in the other place, with Leah, is babies
Fruitful.
on babies
Multiply.
on babies. All right, so I always think about the fact that Leah, she might be the hated one per se, but she's the most fruitful one.
So you should have just been focusing on planting in that garden.
It was some fertile ground over
To
there.
me, it's like I think about how
He didn't hate her that much.
He didn't hate her that much.
He visited that tent. You know what I'm saying? He visited the tent.
Multiple times. Them soft eyes was.
And them tender eyes, boy, they heady. Like.
Well, all right. So what I was trying to say is that I think that Jacob was just like his dad, in that he loved the one. He should have been focused on the one that was more fruitful, and also the one who. And you can see how she's naming her sons. You know what I mean? Like, it's about the Most High, and it's about her husband. It's not about herself. And
Yeah.
so I feel like he kind of just was a little bit like Isaac on
Yeah, I mean,
being enchanted by like how Isaac was enchanted by Eve.
It's almost like it's almost like because of her situation, whatever her situation was, she now is blessed in that way. Where she has become this fruitful ground, and she's bringing forth much fruit. It says in verse 31, which is a true statement, but it's also the thought process. That's why we have it here. Yahweh saw that she was unloved, and he opened her womb. It's saying that he opened her womb, but the thought process is that the Most High opens it or closes it.
Yeah.
And so when you look to the Almighty, and have that particular understanding, to know that He's the one that's doing it, right? And so He is blessing that situation, that they that they're the ones who sat up there and had all of this deceit and all of this stuff, in the coming together of the two of them. But the Most High is blessing it. So it's almost as if she's being blessed, and Rachel at this time, being barren, is being cursed for it. Which is another reason why I think about her involvement in the whole situation to begin with. Because if she was like this innocent party in it, why then would she be punished? Because if she was innocent in all of this, right? She, you would think that she would be blessed if she got tricked too, like.
They was all involved. I'm convinced of it. There's just no way that they both were involved in it. I mean, they would have had would have taken her to another town, Rachel to another town.
For her to be quiet.
For her to be quiet over that.
Yeah, that's funny.
And also, I think about, if it's the custom of the land to marry off the first daughter first, then Jacob should have known about that custom too. You know what I mean? So that I'm on with the rabbi.
He just came.
The rabbi saying it was 20.
He just came on the scene and saw what he saw, and wanted to pull the trigger.
Yeah,
no, he didn't know. Yeah, he didn't know what the family status was. He just seen her and was like,
"That's the one.
That's the one right there."
He only knew her for a month. He was going to work 7 years.
That's it. But again, when you think about
a man know, a man know.
You know what I mean?
When a man know, a man know.
When you think about, again, when you're thinking about what love is,
that won't work 7 years.
this kind of, because this is irrational. It don't have nothing to do with rationale whatsoever. He saw what he wanted, and he said, "I'm going to do what it takes in order to achieve that." And so at that moment, it wasn't attached to any type of emotional thing, because it was just, oh, look at her over there. It was an illogical thing, but it was a decision that he made, and once he made it, the things that he did were connected to the choice that he made. And so when we think about the fact that we say that we love the Most High, it is necessary for us then to back up the words that we're saying. If you love the Most High, then there's a particular way that you will act. There's a particular standard that you're going to align yourself with that looks like love. And so when we have these people who, you think about these different people that's like in the limelight, stars and all of these things, they have these terrible messed up lives, where they propagate things that are totally contrary to the Most High, and then they give each other awards and they stand up there and say, I want to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Meanwhile, your whole mission in life is
Antichrist.
something that's direct opposites of the Messiah of the Bible. And so, there, because of the actions of these people, you're able to see that they might be saying one thing, but the actions are showing that they actually hate the Most High. Because the two things they're not in line with one another. And so when we look at Jacob, the proof that he actually loved Rachel is the fact that he said, I'm just gonna just give me I'll just work 7 years. I don't even care. Like, I love her, I wanna marry her, I'll do 7 years for her. Right? There's the actions that go along with it.
Right.
There's the actions going along with not just saying, oh, I love her so much. But what you gonna do? What you gonna do for her?
Prove it. Yeah.
I love her so much, but I got to do these things over here. I got to take care of this. I got to take care of that. But once I take care of that stuff, I'm gonna come back for you, boo. He ain't say none of that. He's like, I love her, and I'm gonna do whatever it takes right now.
He did a bid.
This is day one. 7 years, day one. I'm in. Because there's actions that go along with, these things that we say. Faith is the same way. I could say that I have faith in Messiah, but if I'm not actively trusting in Him and actively allowing His will to be done in my life, then that actually means that I don't have faith, right? Because there's an action thing that's involved in it. The thing is two parts. Just like when we think about the Shema, which means to hear, but it's not just something going in. What is your response to the thing that goes in? Like, if I hear His words and I know them to be true, the way that I exemplify that I know that His words are in fact true is that I walk out the words that I heard, right? So I hear and obey. And so, a lot of these things, when we think about these things from a Hebraic standpoint, is not like this little linear thing. Like, it's a thing that's more it's a fuller type of understanding that is operating on multiple planes at one time. And so, we think about this Greek type of love that we think about, where it's this non-tangible. It's like this untangible thing that can't be grasped. Oh, I love this person so much. I love them so much. Right? Where it's this thing that you don't even know, like, what is that? What is it? Right? But again, love is you not just saying a thing, but making a particular decision about how it is that you're going to deal with another person. And then not only making that choice, that decision within you, but then following it out, proving it that it's true. And so again, we see that given to us over here through these examples of Jacob. Okay, so lastly, when we look at the children that were born, we see that again that Leah having these children, and in her childbearing, it's almost as if like we have this situation with her where at every turn nothing that she's does is enough, where she's she gives Jacob these children, and still she has this, she's compared to the one, who she never was, this whole situation where first she has Reuben, where she names him as such, where it says, for Yahweh has looked on my affliction, right? Because now my husband is going to love me, right? She feels that, she gave to Jacob his firstborn, being a son, and, this being like a answer to the way that she is treated. But unfortunately, it's not the case. Let's look at this Reuven, Reuben. C. Oh, it's a compound word between Ra'ah and, hold on, and son. Reuben. Where's the BBD at? Oh, it don't give you that. Oh, behold. Behold a son, or see a son. Ra'ah. Ra'ah and Ben. See a son. Oh, I guess you see all of these things in there. His name meaning see a son, as the Most High looked on her afflictions and gave her and her husband a son. It's interesting when we look at these words, these names that are given to various people throughout the scriptures, and their the meanings that go along with their names. Especially looking at the what becomes the 12 tribes. Specifically with Leah here, you're able to see with each one kind of the what she's going through in her life. As she, has to deal with, being the, basically the unwanted wife, right? It's interesting that, when you look at, this situation, well, both of them really, we don't have Rachel until next chapter, but even when you're just looking at Leah, it's almost like they're in this competition. Like she's getting more points, but she's not winning the game.
Yeah.
Like, because it's the game is rigged. The game is rigged because Jacob loves Rachel. Right, so she can never win. It don't matter what she does. It don't matter how many slam dunks, touchdowns she gets in the game. She can't win.
She was part to blame in the rigging of the game. She can't be mad.
She can't be mad. She just has to be happy that she's able to bear children. Okay, what do we have over here? Look at some of these comments here. The naming of Leah's first 3 sons seemed more focused on what she could offer to Jacob as the unloved wife. Not until Judah do we see her focus shift to gratitude and praise of Elohim. Yes, that's an interesting kind of observation when you think about it. it must have within her took, take that long for, things to really just settle in, with her situation and just be able to accept basically, her station in life.
Yeah.
That's what it was. I'm not gonna sit here and cry, so to speak, about the situation. It's just, it is what it is. The interesting thing that we'll find when we look at Rachel, even though she was the most beloved one, they both, Rachel has the same attitude really as Leah. She's never satisfied. Up until her death, she's never satisfied. She always wants. She's always wanting, which is interesting, and sad, really, at the same time.
I wonder if it's, in a lot of houses where, even to this day where they have more than one wife. I wonder if that, dynamic is playing out in all of those situations.
I think that, to me, I think that when you look at that situation, it's like, at the end of the day, we're human beings, right? We're human beings. And so from a human standpoint, I don't know how you erase that element from it. There's probably at some level, going to be some form of jealousy, in that situation. And so, it's a, when you look at that, everything that we are permitted to do is not always expedient. Just because you have the license to do this or that doesn't always mean that that's the best case scenario for you. Because when you think about, like this being an example, that dynamic in terms of the relationship between the two wives, which happen to be sisters, I think probably makes it worse. It's almost like they're in a competition, like they're fighting a battle. One, Leah, she's fighting an unwinnable battle. Rachel, where she's loved, but she can never add up to the fruit that comes from her sister, who isn't loved. And so you have this kind of a thing where it's a fight. Yeah. And so if you would just, you're perfectly able to just alleviate that whole situation. You just find one. Right? And then you don't have to worry about nobody competing with each other. Okay, let's look at some of these other things that we have over here before we finish it. Race being head, first authority in the pictograph, meaning firstborn son, yes, with Reuben, yes, absolutely. Resh Beth Noon, head of house of life in the paleo. Leah was intentional in naming those, yes, absolutely. Yes, and as typically as kind of a thing that a cultural thing for us to do is to not just have names just willy-nilly, just but there's meaning behind them. And so again, we look at these scriptures over here, this is kind of a example of that. But again, like I said, when we look at Leah's situation specifically, that her, she actually had, these unfortunate, ill feelings within herself that we're able to see throughout. But, significant nonetheless. And so let's just finish up here looking down at when we go down through, when we see the birth of Reuben, Simeon, and Levi. It's interesting, which we see, which was brought up here, which I think is probably something that is good to stop on the point that we see here in verse 35, that at least up until this point, we see that when Yehuda is born, now I praise Yahweh. So even up until this point, I think there may be a relapse later, but at least up until this point, we're able to see that Leah at least is able to see kind of a reason to praise and a reason to look towards the Almighty, and not necessarily deal with her, her circumstances and situations. Which, when we think about, our life situations, when we have, different, troubles that we face, or different judgments even that we deal with throughout life. Everything that you go through, we have to make an account for. Sometimes, even though we're living a life of righteousness, even though we're connected to Messiah, even though he's able to keep us and hold us as we go through every step of our life, sometimes we still have to deal with things from before.
Oh yeah. Yep.
That you have to just accept and deal with, that you have to work with and walk with, I should say. And so, we think about David, right? The Most High said that death was never going to leave from his house, and at the same time, he was the apple of his eye. And so when we think about the fact that we can be the beloved of the Almighty, we can be all the way in favor with him, and still have to deal with unfortunate circumstances and situations, and we still have to be able to, in the midst of those things, kind of like Leah over here, to still give the Most High his due and his praise, because at the same time, you reap what you sow. But at the same time, he's still going to be with you, throughout all of these things. And so, this kind of gives us, just even if we just was to look at, chapter 29, just kind of just as a snapshot, without going forward, we're able to see kind of this thing where they had this thing that happened. We don't know the depths of the participation in the deceit, but at the same time, we know that the Most High causes for us to reap what we sow. And so even though, Daddy might be pulling out the the belt on you, the love is still there, right? He just got to let us know every once in a while that, XYZ, you can't be over on that side, right? You got to be on a straight and narrow, right? And so he's not destroying us, right? But he's disciplining us. He's bringing us back to the center. He's causing for us to not, go astray. And so, situations, unfavorable, uncomfortable situations, come about. But we can't allow for those things to cause us to think that the Most High has left us. But on the contrary, understanding that He is with us, as we go through these things, even more. All right, what's this say here? These stories and truths in Torah still play out till this day in real time. Yeah, right, because the Torah is a living word. It's not, when we think about it as like these things that are like not real, you're not getting the point of what the scriptures are. In fact, the scriptures are about these real people that walked around in real life. And so they're giving you a picture of human experiences that happen to them, just like it could happen, it can and does and is happening to you and I, even now. Like I always like to talk about the fact that we're not dealing with superheroes over here. We're dealing with human beings who live lives that look just like ours, except for it was, a couple thousand years ago.
Right.
Right? But if you could take these people and these stories out and move them up into something now, and the only thing that would be different would be like the intangibles.
Right.
But the story is going to be exactly the same. Right? Now you go from people walking around and out in fields with sheep and all these other things to driving cars and going places, but it's the same thing. And so, we have to be able to look back at these things and gain what it is that the Most High has for us to gain, which is knowledge of His character, knowledge of our insufficiency and our need for Messiah. When I look at these people, I see some messed up, broken people. And it just shows me that, I need Messiah. I need Messiah because I'm just like them. I do the same things. I did the same things that they did. And I needed for Messiah to come in my life and change me, so I wasn't walking around here trying to steal blessings and trying to deceive people, right? And trying to run away from purpose, right? And all of these things. So it's interesting when we look at the scriptures and it's a living word. These things is alive, and it's not some old thing that's irrelevant.
Yeah.
On the contrary, this thing is so relevant in every way.
That's what I personally like. That's what my studies recently. I don't say the past few months, but it's like the Bible is just. It's a deep study on psychology and sociology.
All that. It's a study of the mind. And
Yeah.
a study of people's the way situations affect you, like how the things around you affect you, and how your mind is able to connect with things that go on around you.
Right.
It's exactly what it is.
And the benefit of the book is you get to see how the people dealt, the Most High dealt with these people directly. So we get a contrast of what He approved of, what He didn't like, and how He handled it to be like, oh, okay, this is how we need the path we need to take in regards to this person. Because
I always tell people, everything's in the book. Like every mindset, every
Everything.
situation you approach,
Everything
you
that
can
you need,
find it.
anyway.
Yeah. Because people ain't that difficult. Look, we come here, we need air, we need water, we need shelter. That's the basis for living. Everything else is complicated by man, really. It's a little, my bad, and to serve the Most High. You know what I'm saying? That's our duty, like it says. The whole duty is to serve Him. When you this man that adds all these other complications and this and that. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so on that note, anybody have any last questions, comments before we go ahead and be done for this week? All right, so that being said, I want to thank everybody for all of your comments. Thank you for all of your additions to the conversation here. Y'all willing, you all will have a blessed rest of your Shabbat day. Y'all willing, we'll be back on next Shabbat to continue with our look at Jacob and his family beginnings. And so we'll say for now, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom.
All right, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.